What if the sun disappeared for 24 hours? The day the sun vanished. Imagine waking up on an ordinary morning. Your alarm rings, cars move through the streets, millions of people prepare for work, school, and another completely normal day. But somewhere far above Earth, something impossible has just happened. The sun has vanished. Not hidden behind clouds, not blocked by an eclipse. It is simply gone. No warning, no explosion, no final flash of light. The star that has illuminated our planet for billions of years has disappeared from the universe. But strangely, nothing happens at first. For 8 minutes and 20 seconds, Earth continues as if the sun were still there. Sunlight does not reach us instantly. It travels across nearly 150 million kilometers of space before arriving on Earth. Even at the speed of light, that journey takes more than 8 minutes.
The sun's gravity also influences Earth across that enormous distance. So, for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, people continue walking beneath a blue sky, unaware that the center of our solar system no longer exists. Then, the final rays of sunlight arrive, and the world goes dark. On the daylight side of Earth, the transformation is immediate. The blue sky turns black. Cities that were enjoying a bright afternoon suddenly find themselves beneath a sky filled with stars. The horizon loses its warm glow. Shadows disappear. Solar panels stop producing electricity. Automatic streetlights switch on. Millions of drivers slow down in confusion as highways are swallowed by unexpected darkness. At first, many people assume it is an eclipse. They step outside with their phones raised, expecting to see the familiar black circle of the moon covering the sun. But there is no glowing ring, no solar corona, no light surrounding the darkness.
There is only an empty place in the sky where the sun should be.
The moon also becomes nearly invisible. The moon does not create its own light. It shines because it reflects sunlight toward Earth. Without the sun, the bright moon that has guided humans for thousands of years becomes a dark object drifting silently through space. Within minutes, videos flood the internet. People live stream the black sky from New York, London, Tokyo, Sydney, and every city still connected to the digital world. News channels interrupt their programs. Scientists rush into observatories. Governments call emergency meetings. Religious buildings fill with frightened crowds. And across the planet, one question is repeated again and again. Where did the sun go? The disappearance of sunlight would be terrifying, but the disappearance of the sun's gravity would create an even stranger consequence.
For billions of years, Earth has been falling around the sun in a curved orbit. The sun's gravity constantly pulls our planet inward, while Earth's motion carries it forward. This delicate balance creates the orbit that gives us our years and seasons. Once the sun's gravitational influence disappears, Earth would no longer follow that curved path. Our planet would begin traveling in a nearly straight line through space, moving in the direction it had been heading at the moment the sun vanished. Earth would not suddenly stop. People would not be thrown from the surface. We would still feel Earth's gravity beneath our feet. The atmosphere would remain around the planet. The oceans would not immediately escape into space. But humanity would now be riding on a wandering world, no longer anchored to the center of the solar system. During the first hour, the most obvious crisis would be darkness. Countries on the daylight side would experience an instant artificial night. Cities would consume enormous amounts of electricity as homes, offices, factories, and public spaces switched on their lights. At the same time, solar farms would stop contributing power to electrical grids. Regions heavily dependent on solar energy could face blackouts. Traffic lights might fail. Trains could stop. Communication networks would rely on emergency generators and backup batteries. Hospitals would activate their emergency systems. Airports would begin delaying flights as confusion spread through control towers and crowded terminals. The stars would now be visible everywhere. The Milky Way would stretch across the sky above cities where it had been hidden by sunlight. Other planets would appear as small points of light, still reflecting the final sunlight that had reached them.
But even those lights would begin to change as the information about the sun's disappearance traveled farther through the solar system. Mercury would lose sunlight first, then Venus, then Earth. Mars would continue seeing the sun for several more minutes before darkness reached it. Farther away, Jupiter would remain illuminated for more than half an hour. Saturn would still see the sun for over an hour.
The disappearance would spread outward like a silent wave of darkness crossing the solar system. Back on Earth, temperatures would not immediately collapse. Our atmosphere, oceans, soil, buildings, and forests store enormous amounts of heat. Even after sunset, the planet does not freeze because this stored energy is slowly released. A single night can last 12 hours without destroying life. But this would not be a normal night. There would be no sunrise approaching, no warming light waiting beyond the horizon.
Every part of the planet would now be moving deeper into the same endless darkness. After 2 hours, the air would begin cooling in many regions. Warm surfaces would release their remaining heat. Deserts, which normally become cold after sunset, would experience the fastest temperature drops. Tropical regions would cool more slowly because their oceans and humid air retain heat. Coastal cities would remain warmer than inland areas, but everywhere, thermometers would begin moving downward. The natural world would become confused. Birds would return to their nests. Flowers that normally close at night would fold their petals. Bees and other daylight insects would stop flying. Nocturnal animals would emerge, believing the night had arrived early. But their internal biological clocks would soon detect that something was wrong. The darkness was beginning at the wrong time, and it was not ending. Plants would stop photosynthesis almost immediately. Without sunlight, they could no longer convert light energy into chemical energy. But the world's forests would not die in a single day. Most plants store enough energy to survive many nights, cloudy periods, and seasonal darkness. For 24 hours, vegetation would remain alive. The danger would not come from plants suddenly disappearing. It would come from humanity's reaction. By the third hour, supermarkets would be crowded. People would rush to purchase food, water, batteries, fuel, blankets, and portable generators. Gas stations would fill with vehicles. Some cities would impose emergency restrictions. Others would ask residents to remain indoors. The internet would become overwhelmed with rumors. Some would claim that the sun had exploded. Others would say that Earth had been transported to another part of the universe. False videos and fabricated government warnings would spread faster than scientists could respond. Without a visible explosion or a known astronomical cause, even the world's greatest experts would have no immediate explanation. Observatories would search the space where the sun once existed. They might detect the planets continuing along altered paths. They might watch comets and asteroids escaping their former orbits. But at the center of the solar system, there would be nothing. No star, no debris, no evidence that the sun had ever been there. After 6 hours, Earth would be colder, darker, and more frightened. In some regions, power demand would exceed supply. Blackouts would spread across cities. Millions of people would sit inside dark homes, listening to battery-powered radios for information. Satellites designed to recharge through solar panels would begin using stored battery power. Many could survive the 24-hour darkness, just as they survive shorter periods in Earth's shadow. But damaged batteries, aging systems, or satellites with limited reserves might begin shutting down. Communication and navigation services could become less reliable. The oceans would remain liquid. The atmosphere would remain breathable. Humanity would still be alive, but everyone would now understand the terrifying truth. 6 hours had passed, and there was still no sign of sunrise. For the first time in human history, every person on Earth was experiencing the same night, and the coldest, most dangerous hours had not yet begun. The longest night in human history. 12 hours after the sun disappeared, darkness covers the entire planet. There is no longer a daylight side of Earth. No city is waiting for dawn. No country can look east and see the horizon becoming brighter. From space, our planet appears almost completely black, except for the glowing networks of artificial light created by human civilization. Where electrical grids still function, cities shine like islands in a dark ocean. Where power has failed, entire regions vanish from view. Temperatures continue to fall. The exact change differs from place to place. The oceans release stored heat slowly, helping coastal regions remain relatively stable. Clouds trap some warmth near the surface, but under clear skies, especially in dry inland areas, heat escapes rapidly into space. The world does not become a frozen planet in a single day. The oceans do not turn into solid ice. The atmosphere does not freeze and fall to the ground. Those processes would take far longer.
But after 12 hours without sunlight, many places would feel noticeably colder than they should. Regions already experiencing winter would face the greatest immediate danger. Heating systems would be pushed to their limits. If power stations failed, homes could become dangerously cold. Emergency shelters would open. Hospitals would prepare for patients suffering from exposure. People would burn wood, fuel, and anything else that could produce heat. The crisis would not be caused by the temperature alone. It would be caused by darkness, failing infrastructure, uncertainty, and fear. Global financial markets would stop operating normally. Governments would close borders and restrict travel. Military forces would move to protect power stations, fuel reserves, communication centers, and food supplies. Scientists would attempt to reassure the public. They would explain that Earth could survive 24 hours without sunlight. Plants would live. Most animals would survive. The oceans would remain liquid. The atmosphere would continue protecting us. But no scientist could answer the most important question. Would the sun return? Around the world, human behavior would reveal both the best and worst sides of civilization. Some people would panic. Stores would be broken into. Roads would become blocked by vehicles. False information would trigger violence and confusion. But in many communities, strangers would also help one another. Families would gather in the same houses to share heat. Restaurants would distribute food before it spoiled. People with generators would charge medical equipment for their neighbors. Astronomers would explain the night sky through live broadcasts. Musicians might perform in candlelit streets. And millions of people would stand outside looking at the stars as they had never seen them before. Without sunlight, the universe would feel closer. Yet Earth would feel more alone than ever. In forests, oceans, and grasslands, animals would struggle to understand the extended night. Species guided by sunlight would lose their normal schedule. Bird migrations could become disrupted. Some insects would remain inactive. Predators adapted to darkness might hunt for longer than usual. Marine life near the surface would experience unusual behavior, while organisms in the deep ocean would barely notice the change. Far below the waves, countless creatures live without ever seeing sunlight. They survive through chemical energy, falling organic material, and ecosystems surrounding hydrothermal vents. For them, the disappearance of the sun for one day would mean almost nothing. Life on Earth is more adaptable than it appears. Even humans have survived months of darkness in polar regions. But this event would be different, because it would affect everyone, everywhere, at the same time. 18 hours after the disappearance, Earth has traveled a significant distance along its new path through space. Without the sun pulling it inward, the planet continues moving forward. If the sun never returned, Earth would eventually leave the solar system entirely. It would become a rogue planet, traveling through interstellar darkness. Over the following weeks and months, surface temperatures would collapse. Photosynthesis would stop permanently. Food chains would begin failing. Most surface plants would die. Animals dependent on those plants would follow. The oceans would freeze from the surface downward, although liquid water could remain beneath thick layers of ice for a very long time. Human survivors might move underground, living near geothermal energy sources or nuclear reactors. Small communities could potentially survive beneath the frozen surface, but the civilization we know would disappear. Fortunately, the sun has only been gone for 24 hours. As the final hour approaches, the world waits. There are no reliable signs that anything is changing. The sky remains black. Power grids continue struggling. Temperatures continue falling. People gather in public squares, emergency shelters, churches, temples, mosques, schools, and private homes. Some count the minutes. Others have stopped believing that the sun will ever return. Then, exactly 24 hours after it vanished, the impossible happens again. The sun reappears. But its return does not reach Earth immediately. Once again, light must cross the distance between the sun and our planet. For 8 minutes and 20 seconds, the restored sun shines into space, while Earth remains unaware. Then the first light arrives. There is no gradual sunrise. For the side of Earth facing the sun, daylight returns almost instantly. The black sky becomes blue. Stars disappear. Buildings cast shadows again. Solar panels begin generating electricity. Animals react to the sudden brightness.
People cover their eyes, cry, cheer, and embrace one another. Across the world, millions record the same extraordinary moment. Humanity has survived the longest night in history. But the event is not completely over. For 24 hours, Earth traveled without the sun's gravity guiding its orbit. When the sun returns, its gravitational influence reaches Earth with the returning light. The planet is captured again. However, Earth is no longer in exactly the same position it would have occupied. Its path has shifted. A disappearance lasting only one day would probably not throw Earth completely out of the solar system. But even a small change in our orbit could affect the length of the year, the timing of seasons, or Earth's future path around the sun. Astronomers would spend decades calculating the consequences. Satellites might require new orbital adjustments. Space agencies would track asteroids and comets whose paths had been disturbed. The solar system would no longer be the perfectly predictable structure humanity once believed it to be. The environmental effects of one day without sunlight would be limited compared with the social consequences. Most plants would recover immediately, temperatures would begin rising, animals would gradually return to normal routines, electrical grids would stabilize, food production would continue. Within days, much of daily life could resume. But psychologically, humanity would never be the same. Every religion, government, scientific institution, and culture would be transformed by the knowledge that the sun could disappear without warning. Nations might begin constructing underground shelters. Governments could build enormous food reserves. Scientists would develop new systems powered by geothermal and nuclear energy. Space agencies might accelerate plans for permanent colonies beyond Earth. Children born after the event would grow up hearing stories about the day the sky went black. There would be memorials, documentaries, conspiracy theories, annual ceremonies held at the exact moment the sun disappeared. For generations, people would watch every sunrise with a new feeling. Not routine, not certainty, gratitude. Because the sun is so constant that we rarely think about it. It rises every morning whether we notice it or not. It powers nearly every ecosystem on Earth. It warms the oceans, drives the weather, feeds the forests, and provides the energy behind almost every meal we eat. Our lives depend on a star located millions of kilometers away. A star we cannot control. A star we assume will always be there. 24 hours without the sun would not instantly destroy Earth. Humanity would survive. The planet would recover. But during that single endless night, we would be forced to confront a truth we usually ignore. Civilization may feel powerful. Our cities may glow brightly enough to hide the stars. Our machines may cross oceans, explore planets, and reshape the surface of the Earth. But without the light of one distant star, almost everything we have built becomes fragile. So the next time you watch the sun rise, consider this question. What if, one morning, it simply did not?